All right, so what are we talking about now? What's going on? Oh, it's the band hole. Everybody, let's go into the band hole. Come on, I can't go any further. This is the wall. It's not real. It's illusion. Everything I do is fake and lies. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here now, I guess today, yeah, whatever you want to put it. We are here at this point in time, this shared moment in mankind's history, to talk about pioneer bands. There are 3 big cards that got banned, and actually this ban feels a little more traditional to me insofar as 2 of the bans are actually colorless cards. And that is, traditionally colorless is an area that Wizards has had an issue with. And when it comes to these pioneer bans, I mean, they feel fairly self-evident. As far as Pioneer goes, this is the type of banning I expected to see. When they did their first ban announcement, there were some surprises for me where I was like, okay, wait, you know what? I wasn't expecting this stuff. But the stuff we're going to talk about today falls more in line with the kind of things that normally get banned. In fact, all of the cards that got banned in Pioneer today have already had the hammer dropped on them in other formats. So that makes perfect sense. Those were the cards that seemed most likely to get banned to me, was cards that had already proven, hi, I'm a problem. And it's like, get out, problem, get out. Go get in the ban hole. That's where you belong. Anyhow, let's talk about the 3 cards and we'll go over the announcement that they made here. So the cards that are banned are Once Upon a Time, Field of the Dead, and Smuggler's Copter. Now you may notice that all of a sudden my voice is, if you're on a set of headphones or something, you're gonna notice my voice, it's over here on the right hand side, and that's because of the way I record these videos. Although I suppose actually, you know what? Hold on, let me try some magic here. Maybe that'll change my voice a little bit. We'll find out. Anyways, I'm going to launch into the announcement here. Over the last several days, a series of Pioneer PTQ tournaments were held as part of Magic Online's Pioneer Week. The results of these tournaments and data from League play show how the environment has evolved under further competitive pressure. While the results look promising and changes so far have been moving the format in a good direction, our data shows 3 outstanding issues that are preventing the metagame from arriving at a better balance. These are, number 1, the strength of mono black aggro and other aggressive decks featuring Smuggler's Copter. Surprise, surprise, Smuggler Copter got banned while it was still in standard. That's the power level of it. Everybody was running around. And you know what? On a side note, on a tangent here, I think that having helicopters in Magic is really, really, really stupid. I really do, honestly. I mean, ornithopters and things like that kind of push the line with their sort of winged, held aloft by magic thing. But like a helicopter, it pushes the bounds. It goes outside of the bounds. This is a helicopter. We're talking about a magical world, and you have a like technology like a helicopter, a big old flying egg helicopter that looks just stupid. All right. After that, we've got Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead ramp decks are suppressing, controlling, and reactive decks. Who would have thought Field of the Dead would be a problem? It was only a problem in Standard, and Pioneer's kind of like Standard, except you have way more sets to draw from. So I guess even with easy answers in terms of land removal, because there are some cards that you can use, like that one land from Ixalan, the name is eluding me right now, Field of Ruin, I believe is the name, where you can use that to destroy land. So I mean, that exists, but whatever. I guess they just decided that Field of the Dead is too oppressive, and I can't say that I feel like they're wrong on that case, in all honesty. And then it says, number 3, the general prevalence and dominance of green decks as a group, with Once Upon a Time being a key common factor to those decks' success. When you combine the new, London Mulligan along with Once Upon a Time, it's really easy to make sure that your starting hand is something you can work with. You have far fewer incidences of things getting screwed up for you in terms of, oh, I've got mana flooded, oh, I'm getting mana deprived. All those sort of things are much easier to sort out. And if you're playing with any kind of combo-liciousness, you have a better chance of making sure you get your combo pieces. it's too much. Having 5 extra cards, the fact that you can play it for free, honestly, the fact that you can play it for free basically extends your starting hand by 5 cards in terms of options. Yes, you only get 1 card, but it gives you 5 more options. So instead of your normal starting 7 options, you have up to 12 options, depending on, I mean, obviously it's got to be lands and creatures on top of your deck. So Once Upon a Time has gotten hit with the hammer in Pioneer. That's not surprising. It already got slammed in Standard for the same reason. So we're not surprised, but honestly, none of these bans surprise me in the slightest. So it continues. As a result, we're choosing to ban Smuggler's Copter, Field of the Dead, and Once Upon a Time in Pioneer. We believe that these changes will result in greater diversity among aggressive decks, a clearer role in the metagame for reactive and controlling decks, and a push towards better color balance among competitive decks. That seems like a good balance to strike. Obviously, you want to have a number of different styles of aggressive decks. You don't want that, like, oh, do you want to play an aggressive strategy? Well, then you have to play like a mono black setup with Smuggler's Copter. You don't want that. A clearer role in the metagame for reactive and controlling decks. As much as I do not like playing against control decks, that is in more of a casual style environment. I fully accept that when it comes to competitive and tournament environments, that people are going to be playing control decks, and that's perfectly fine, because that's the place for them. I don't think the control decks belong in like super casual play because they're decidedly unfun, like 100% unfun. But when it comes to competitive Magic, yeah, I mean, you want to have control decks, you want to have reactive decks, that makes perfect sense. And a push towards better color balance among competitive decks makes perfect sense. Having cards like Once Upon a Time makes it far too attractive to move into green. And it's so weird for me to say this, but we're living in a time where green has finally established some level of dominance, which feels like Bizarro World, honestly. The article continues. This weekly rapid iteration of the banned list in the early days of Pioneer as an alternative to launching the format with a pre-populated ban list has been an interesting and positive experiment thus far. Yeah, I find it to be an interesting setup too. Normally when a format's coming along, they try and sit down and hammer out what needs to be banned preemptively, and that's going to be informed by previous bannings. Obviously, if they were doing that, things like Smuggler's Copter and Fields of the Dead would have most likely started on the Pioneer ban list. Once Upon a Time wouldn't have been on there most likely because Once Upon a Time only got banned in Standard about 2 weeks ago, and that was after the point where they built the Pioneer ban list. The Pioneer ban list only started with the fetch lands, and that was just because they don't want to have Pioneer compared too strongly to Modern or defined by the fetch lands and the ease of playing all the multicolors, plus the issue of all of the shuffle that comes along with insane amount of fetch lands. So I personally have enjoyed this approach so far. The article continues, we've been able to use real-world data and results to arrive at what we believe is a smaller and more accurate ban list that we hope will provide a more fun, dynamic metagame compared to a preemptive approach. Our plan remains to slow the pace of changes as we approach the new year, and we hope to sync up Pioneer changes with the regularly scheduled BNR announcements for all formats starting early next year. After that time, we expect the frequency of changes to Pioneer to be closer to that of other non-rotating formats. Now, for me, honestly, I kind of wish that they would go in the opposite direction with their ban philosophy. I wish that instead of deciding to link these up with the scheduled BNR announcements, that they just stuck to, I mean, technically, Pioneer every Monday is a scheduled ban and restricted announcement, right? They're scheduled for every Monday. I like the whole weekly style ban scenario because it does allow them to be incredibly reactive to problematic cards. Personally, I would enjoy it if they actually went ahead and made that the new philosophy for each format, or at least just for Standard, honestly. Because the amount of time, like they have 2 months between bans normally, or at least that's how it used to be, but they seem to have moved it up to a monthly style scenario. We had a ban in October, we had a ban announcement in November, we've had one here in December, right? So, not in December, like I should say we have one coming up in December, right? So they've been doing it each month now, and I don't know if that's going to continue or if they're going to move back to every 2 months, because we haven't really had clear communication on exactly how that's going to work going forwards. But I personally think that a more reactive scenario is better. Things change quickly, but they also get very stagnant quickly too. So if something becomes a problem, it can linger for a while. Oka was allowed to linger for too long, and as a result, it led to like unhappy times. So for me, I would be happier with bans happening on a more frequent basis. Not bans. I shouldn't say I'd be happier with bans happening on a more frequent basis. I like the agility that comes along with being able to ban things on a weekly basis. Under an ideal scenario, they will have things like standards so well balanced that we don't have to worry about having such frequent bans. In terms of the cards that were banned today, all of them make perfect sense to me. Once Upon a Time is way too good at fixing your hand problems and giving you a very smooth start to the game consistently, and Magic has that whole variance issue in it where it's not like chess where you can always start with the exact same moves and the same pieces. So you have that built into the game, and that actually it adds a certain level of luck and randomness to the game, which can allow people of lesser skill to get wins as well, or decks that are not guaranteed to be the best in a matchup to still pull off the win because of that variance. And I like that. I like the little bit of random nature to it as opposed to something specifically set. So Once Upon a Time removes that issue to a degree in terms of like problems. So I think that it needs to go. Smuggler's Copter is just an incredibly powerful card for what you get for your mana and the card advantage and everything, and only needing 1 power creatures to crew it. It's too strong on top of being just a silly concept. So I'm cool with Smuggler's Copter being banned. And Field of the Dead, we already witnessed firsthand in Standard how detrimental that card can be, how overpowering, and how resilient it can be to surviving through board wipe and stuff like that. So for me, overall, all these bans make perfect sense. I'm curious to see the development of Pioneer. We've seen a number of green cards banned, which is an interesting development for me in Magic the Gathering, because green's my favorite color. And for the longest time, green was like one of the weakest colors in terms of maybe you'd want to toss a couple cards in, maybe, but you would never consider playing it like a mono green style strategy. And times have changed. Questing Beast, Yorvo, we've got a lot of beefy green goodness that I like. The Wicked Wolf, these are all really solid green cards. So overall, I stand behind all these Pioneer bans. I think they're pretty solid. Let me know what you guys think about these bans and overall the future of Pioneer. Is it a format you're excited about? I've heard of a number of stores dropping Standard in favor of Pioneer after what's happened recently, and that's understandable, honestly. You want formats that people are going to play. So let me know your thoughts. Big shout out to my patrons and channel members. On a side note, I do have a second channel where I'm making a lot of fun videos, and you're invited to come on by. As I've been doing recently, I'm going to link some of those videos at the end of this because it makes it easier for you to head on over there. If you liked this video, hit it with a like, because honestly, that helps with the YouTube algorithm, and a lot of people forget they'll like a video, but they won't actually like the video. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, everybody, thanks for being here. And remember, together, we are the 6th color of Magic.